I'm Corey Costello, and this is TehachaPod's Eye on the Capitol. Eye on the Capitol is an informative look at state and national legislation that impacts your life in Tehachapi. From new proposals, new laws, and even future ballot measures, we do the research and pass on that information to you while you go about your life. On today's episode, new water storage appears to be heading to California, the homeowner's insurance issue continues to be worked on behind the scenes, the California Supreme Court makes a ruling on litigation against power companies for public safety power shutoffs, and more money coming from the state for pavement on Highway 58 through Tehachapi. We start with water, a topic of conversation since the West was settled, but after years of drought was ended in 2023, a new El Niño winter has the state of California in a unique predicament: what to do with all the extra water we have coming our way. Nearly all of California's reservoirs are full, but ready for stormwater via flood control mechanisms, and despite multiple voter-approved water bonds, construction on new reservoirs never came to fruition until now. 2 weeks ago, Governor Newsom streamlined the process for a new reservoir north of Sacramento by using new infrastructure laws to reduce red tape and build the state's first reservoir in nearly 50 years. The $4.5 billion, with a B, site reservoir will be located on ranch lands in Glenn and Colusa counties with the intent of capturing more water in wet years from Sacramento River. It's designed to hold 1.5 million acre-feet of water, enough to provide water to 3 million California homes, farms, and cities across the state. Barring environmental legal challenges, which are also limited in this legislative act, developers hope to break ground in 2026 with completion in 2032. Not in time to impact our upcoming wet winter, but a move in the correct direction for future state water planning and recognition of the will of the voters who approved Proposition 1 to fund such projects back in 2014. Speaking of Proposition 1, in the March 5th primary, Californians will be asked to vote on a new Prop 1. This time the target is mental health and homelessness, as the governor has championed a proposition that replaces California's 20-year-old mental health system by borrowing $6.5 billion to add 10,000 mental health treatment beds. It also aims to require some local jurisdictions that receive housing money from the 1% mental health services tax approved by voters in 2004, which is paid by California's wealthiest individuals, into mental health treatment. The governor is putting $6 million of campaign money into the initiative that he has dubbed Treatment Not Tents. In Los Angeles earlier this year, the governor addressed the new measure and why he's seeking this solution.
It's unacceptable what we're dealing with at scale now in the state of California. Not only in terms of what's happening on the streets and sidewalks, but those that are suffering alone, those that are unseen in homes, in mobile home parks, on the streets, obviously, as well, in isolation. We have to address and come to grips with the reality of mental health in this state and our nation.
Opponents of the ballot measure say diverting money in the Mental Health Services Act for housing will result in up to $1 billion in cuts to the current mental health programs like outpatient care and crisis response. Other advocates criticize the governor for making last-minute changes to the bond, allowing the money to be spent on involuntary treatment institutions. Additional burden will be placed on counties to cover housing and rental subsidies, while the remaining $4.4 billion will be paid back by taxpayers via the bond approval. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum is fire insurance. Both rising in concerns and costs have Tehachapi residents interested in the latest developments on this front. Many in the greater Tehachapi area and even in the city of Tehachapi have had insurance premiums increase or simply dropped, as some companies cite the high replacement costs of assets in California as the reason some have simply stopped writing policies in our region and our state. The state legislature failed to come up with a solution prior to the end of the last legislative session, but the Insurance Commission continues to work on proposals under an executive order issued by the governor. Some have looked to the state's fair insurance plan, which often replaces private insurance. However, demand for the coverage has also increased premiums, a nearly 16% increase recently. Word is that Capitol insiders do not predict any changes until 2026, although Cal Matters reports that those working on the proposals to insurance companies to lessen their risk claim they'll work as fast as, quote, good policy can to institute new rules sooner. The public will have a chance to weigh in on the new proposals once draft regulations are finalized. On a related note, wildfire threats caused by power lines started public safety power shutoffs in 2019. They wreak havoc all over the state, including Tehachapi. TehachaPod's shed light on many of the nonsensical shutoffs impacting city operations, retail, and fueling stations located well outside of fire-prone areas. As a response, Southern California Edison invested millions in our area to update infrastructure and add additional circuits to isolate specific areas, which has almost eliminated the threat of public safety power shutoffs. However, those that are still impacted statewide, especially with another major provider, PG&E, have been told they cannot sue the power giant for losses incurred during power shutoffs. A ruling by the California Supreme Court earlier this week states that litigation against power companies would interfere with the California Public Utilities Commission's comprehensive regulatory and supervisory authority. and is therefore barred under state law. The decision was unanimous among the justices. There's an additional federal case pending. However, it is expected that the 9th District Court of Appeals will take the California Supreme Court's opinion in its ruling. It was noted in the ruling that the decision does not preclude litigation against PG&E based on more narrow claims of damage based on negligence. In regards to the CPUC, the Commission recently voted to reduce the amount of money paid to California rooftop solar generators when they sell excess power from their solar panels back to power companies. Last December, the first reduction was made for homeowners, and recently new rules were adopted for apartment buildings, schools, farms, and commercial buildings with multiple electric meters occupying the same site. These solar generators will be paid about 80% less per unit of electricity they sell, depending on season and time of day. Critics claim the new rules force solar owners to sell low and buy high. Those with older units already installed will gradually see the reduction of price over the next 20 years. The reduction was supported by investor-owned utilities PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric. The CPUC claims the reduction will reduce a subsidy that burdened other ratepayers. Just weeks after announcing the $275 million in funding for Highway 58 repaving and one section of a long-awaited truck climbing lane near Tehachapi, Caltrans is seeking public comment for a new project dubbed the Tehachapi Pavement Project, which rehabilitates State Route 58 from just west of the Tucker off-ramp to the Sand Canyon exit. Currently in the planning phase, the project could begin construction in 2028. The price tag for the project is estimated at nearly $41 million. Comments can be provided to Caltrans by visiting the link in the show notes of this episode. The addition of this project means Highway 58 has been allocated $316 million over the last month for pavement projects. Highway 58 continues to be one of the busiest east-west primary trucking routes in California, with its important connection to Interstate 15 and Interstate 40 in Barstow. Tehachapi City Councilmember Phil Smith and Development Services Director Jay Schlosser, both active in the Kern Council of Governments who handle state road requests, addressed the media earlier this month in regards to the importance of Highway 58 during a press conference announcing the truck climbing lane's funding.
And now we're finally at the point where we're going to build this. And we've all up here at least waited for a long, long time. 58 is the second heaviest truck route in the state.
In the city of Tehachapi, about 64% of the community commutes out every day. About half to the Bakersfield area and half to the Lancaster area. So these are our citizens that utilize this route every single day. And the second highest truck route in the state of California deserves the funds that it needs in order to support the California economy, but also the safety of the folks that drive on it.
What is real news and what is fake news? The next educational year in California will join a variety of other states such as Texas, New Jersey, and Delaware by making media literacy as part of California curriculum. This was a result of AB 873 that was signed into law by Governor Newsom last month. The bill is in response to a growing number of young people turning to social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and X, I still call it Twitter, for their news consumption. The curriculum is expected to slowly be rolled out to students from kindergarten to high school, with the goal of teaching children how to be more critical consumers of online content as the reach of these digital platforms continues to increase. The courses are anticipated to help young people identify fake news posted online, as well as see the difference between legitimate news articles and those of paid advertising. Homeowners and prospective buyers continue to keep an eye on interest rates. The recent spike in rates led to a 13-year low in national home sales in October, according to the Wall Street Journal. That isn't the only factor, as home buying affordability sits near its lowest levels in decades. The National Association of Realtors reported that existing home sales decreased 4.1% in October from the prior month and 14.6% from the same month this time last year. Meanwhile, the national median price rose 3.4% in October from a year ago to the highest national existing median home dating back to 1999 data. While rates have subsided, some buyers are satisfied with waiting until after the holidays to make a purchase as they keep an eye on interest rates. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve says they may be comfortable holding rates steady for the remainder of the year. The Fed will consider ongoing evidence on inflation, wage growth, and consumer prices to ensure inflation is clearly on a path before addressing rates again. Meanwhile, the lack of buyers has led to an increase in rental prices for single families, with a 6% increase reported in the third quarter by some of the nation's largest rental landlord companies. The state of California has officially removed all incarcerated inmates from the nearby California City Prison facility, a privately owned facility that was leased by the state over a decade ago, but recently announced as part of the governor's budget plan to stop using. A few staff members remain to oversee the full closure of the facility. The remaining staff have been reassigned or put on loan to other correctional facilities. The California City closure announcement came at the same time as the announcement of a closure of a second unit at California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi. CCI Tehachapi remains operational with 1,710 incarcerated inmates as of November 15th, up from 1,628 in June of this year. There are currently 1,055 staff members assigned to the facility. That's the latest from Eye on the Capitol. If you have a question regarding the impacts of state or federal legislation or have another topic you would like more information about, reach out to Eye on the Capitol at media@TehachaPiCityHall.com, and I will include it on a future episode. Until then, you keep living up, Tehachapi, and we'll keep an eye on the Capitol.